Okay, so on this video, what I want to show you is a few different tools that you can use for different purposes to create cool objects. So the last one was basics with materials. This one I'm going to do some tools known as array, sweep to rails, network surfaces, and then you can apply these tools to forms and shapes that you're interested in creating. So first one I want to show you is array. So if I draw a sphere, I can pull the sphere out. Let me right click to switch to shaded. And if I wanted to make multiples of them, almost like a solar system around a central orbit, I can do that. So let me draw a larger sphere. And then I'm going to pull it out so this one's just kind of sticking out of the side there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a top view and I'm going to array around a pole. So I'm going to type array and look for array polar. Click on that. Select the object to array, which is this one. Enter. And select the center of it. And so I'm going to select the midpoint on this circle here. Click. And then the number of items I want, let me do 20. And then the angle to fill. Do I want it to go all the way around, halfway around? In this case, I'm going to go all the way around, so 360 degrees is the correct angle setup for me. So I'm going to just hit enter and enter. So you just hit enter twice there. And you'll see that I just made kind of a gem-looking object here, right? So that's what array does. That's kind of cool, right? So that's a pretty easy tool to make some cool geometry. Let me go ahead and turn this back to shaded. I'll delete this, or let me just undo. There's other kinds of arrays as well. If I go array hole, if you've got a hole in an object, it'll make multiples. But if I want to do a linear array, select the object to array and enter. Select the number of items, 10, enter. Select the first reference point. Maybe I'll do the center of the object. And then as I drag it out, you can see the spacing changes. If I bring it really close together, I can get crazy shapes. So let's do that again. And this is great for making things like fences if you're doing geometry for CAD. But it can also be used in different ways for adding details to something. So like if I wanted to, I could draw like maybe a cylinder. From a right view, or no, from a front view. Enter and go about to there. Switch back to perspective. You know, it's like a scepter or something like that, right? So that's good for making little details on objects. Pretty easy tool to use too. The next one I want to show you is called sweep with 2 rails, and you can also do it with 1 rail, but I'll just show you the more complicated one. So I'm going to draw a shape like that, and then I'm going to do another, I'm going to switch to a right view. Go ahead and I'm going to mark this actually with a couple of points here. No, you know what? First, I'm going to move this to the 0. So I'm going to go move, enter, and find my center right there. And then I'm going to hit 0, enter. And what that's going to do is that's going to put the center right on the axis point here, which is going to make it easier to draw things straight. So I'm going to go now to a right view and select that line so I can see those points. And I'm going to draw a curve. It's called a control point curve here. from this midpoint here, turn my ortho off so I can go a little bit more free, or ortho off here, and then draw a shape there, enter. And if I wanted to use sweep 1, I could just have one curve here, but I want to use sweep 2. So hit enter to bring up the curve command again. Okay, so now if I switch to perspective, since I move that right into the 0 point there, you can see that this line lined up right on the grid there, on the x-axis or y-axis. And why you want that is you want to make sure that the shapes that you're getting don't zoom in and out of space. You want it to be, if I look at it from a front view, straight. See? And you can play with moving things a little bit too if you wanted to like warp it, but it's going to work better if it's straight. So let's go ahead now and do sweep. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me do one other thing here. I'm going to go to a top view, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. I might be pushing my luck here, but let's go ahead and try this. Move midpoint to there. And then I'm going to shrink this down. I want it to fit a little bit smaller than this line here and this line here. And you'll see when I switch into perspective why. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up a little bit. So let's try it a couple of different ways. First, I'm going to do sweep 2 and not use a cross section. So I did sweep 2, and then it says select first rail. So this is the rail, this is the second rail, this is the cross section. And then if I hit enter, it's going to make that shape follow that cross section. See that? All right, let's try to do the same command again. Sweep 2, this rail, this cross section, and this cross section. Now you see what it did there, right? So yeah, sweep 2 is a pretty cool command for creating interesting geometry like that. And it has this really nice flow to it. I can almost see this as like the base of a lamp, or even a liquor bottle would be great for something like this, or a wine bottle or a juice bottle, whatever. So that's sweep 2. The next one I want to do, I'm just going to delete this and keep my lines and use those for the next one. So switch back into shaded. And I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to draw a line, just a straight line, because I'm going to make a surface. Straight line from there to there, straight line from there to there. And then actually, I'm also going to bump this out into space a little bit. Bump this one this way. So you can see it's kind of like a bendy form. And then I'm going to use what we call a network surface, or if I click on my little surface tools here, or sorry, this one up here, and go to surface from a network of curves, and I can just select those curves and hit enter, and now I've got just a nice flat surface there. And really, that tool can be used to build anything from a car to you know, a piece of paper that is blowing in the wind. So let me show you how you can build off of this one surface to make more surfaces. So if I now draw, go to a right view here, put another line, maybe let's use another curve here. Go from my endpoint up here, and then I'll do another one like that. Go into perspective. You can see that it's connected. Now I'm going to click here, find this point, move it back into space. And then I can make another surface from this network with these lines all touching each other, so that I know that if I close this pattern out with more and more surfaces, it will make a solid that can be even 3D printed. So I need this curve here. So let's go ahead and try dupe edge. And what duplicate edges does is if I click on an edge, it duplicates it. So now I've got a line there on that edge. So now I can go network surface and go from left to right here. Remember, if I go from right to left, it will select that surface too. If I go from left to right, because I am missing this little edge back here, it only selects all right. So network surface, I'm clicking on one line. Oh, see, I do have two curves on there. I didn't need to duplicate that curve, sorry. So, because I used a curve earlier and that curve was still there. If I didn't have a curve there, I could duplicate the edge to make a curve there, but I forgot I used one earlier. So now network surface will work. All right, here, let me just click them. One curve, there, enter twice. So you can see you can make a Frank Gehry building. Let's look at it in rendered. Oh, that's not rendered. Oh yeah, it is. It's showing me all the curves that are on there too. And if you want to get rid of all the curves, you can just go to select all curves. I always forget where it is though. Select objects. Select object, curves. And it'll just select the curves, and then I can hit delete and it gets rid of all of my curves. Okay, so that's that. Network surface works with I think 3 to 4 lines, maybe a little bit more. Just I would just experiment with it a little bit if that's a tool that you find useful. The last thing I want to show you guys is how to make fabric. So if I had like a cube and I wanted it to look like maybe a bed with sheets on it, I can use a tool called drape. So drape from a top view, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle over my object. And you can see the spacing right there. I could change the spacing, I could change the depth, I can kind of tweak this thing, but let's see what it does by default. So if I release that, go back into perspective here, you can see it didn't do that much. It just did a little bit on the, oh, I think it's probably smaller. Yeah, let's do it again. Let's see if we can tweak the settings a little bit. So over a box, it doesn't look as impressive as it does over certain other objects, but that gives you kind of more of an organic shaped object there. If I do it over something that has more topography, really what drape is great for is kind of making topographical maps, but it can be also used to insinuate fabric. So if I draw a couple of circles here, and extrude them up at different heights, union them all together with Boolean union. And then I drape this. You can see kind of what I'm talking about. So curves have a little bit cooler drape to them. And that would be even maybe a good way to stage an object, like putting, tablecloth kind of looking objects in your plane. So that's the drape tool. All right, so that should probably do it. Show you some different ways of making stuff that's a little bit more sophisticated. Of course, you can use basic geometry, clean lines, and I'm fine with that too. But the more you explore, the more fun I think you'll have. So thank you very much. Have a great day.